It's Monday, December 6, 2010. In this week's BeakerBeat, the Wall Street crackdown could reach the halls of Big Pharma. We'll tell you who's under suspicion and why.
Bonjour, you cheese-eating surrender monkey!
Plus, J&J continues to resemble the French army, recalling more and more drugs like France retreats troops from the front lines. And you know what they say about men with big hands? Big gloves. And now, a lower risk of prostate cancer. We'll explain coming up. All that and more in this week's edition of BeakerBeat. Hello everyone, welcome to this week's edition of BeakerBeat. I'm Mike Justice, thanks for tuning in. Well, remember all those massive M&A deals involving Big Pharma from a few years back? The feds do too, and now they're doing a little bit of digging into those deals, looking for possible signs of insider trading. The Wall Street Journal reports that trading activity around a number of healthcare deals is being examined by U.S. authorities as part of investigations into suspected insider trading by certain hedge fund players. Federal investigators suspect that pharma M&A has been a hotbed for insider trading. Sources tell the Journal that authorities are looking into several deals, including Merck's 2009 buyout of Schering-Plough, Pfizer's 2009 purchase of Wyeth, and AstraZeneca's takeover of MedImmune in 2007. These are all part of a broader probe of several hedge funds. The feds are looking at funds that boosted their holdings in the acquired companies during the quarters in which those deals were announced. Statistics show that some purchasers definitely bid up those stocks ahead of the deal announcements. MedImmune shares had been trading heavily for 6 weeks beforehand, jumping about 50% in value over that period. The stock rose by 18% on the day the AZ buyout was announced. Likewise, Wyeth shares gained more than 20% in the 6 weeks before Pfizer publicized its takeover. The stock spiked by 12% the day of that announcement. The hedge funds in question didn't say whether they bought their holdings in these companies before or after the deals went public. In fairness, the stock buys could have been innocent, made simply on speculation based on rumors of pharma consolidation that swept the industry at that time. The feds are serious about this, by the way. Last month, the FBI raided several hedge funds as the probe into suspected insider trading and the $1.7 trillion hedge fund industry continues to grow. So tell us what you think about this story or any story that you see in today's show. It's very simple. Click on the orange button below me. A box will pop up. You type in your comment, send it to me. I promise I'll read and respond to every one of them. And when you're done watching BeakerBeat, check out Beaker's blog, where we introduce you to spray-on stem cells and how they can treat wounds. Plus, find out how medical device leaders are hedging their bets on startups. Those stories and more on Beaker's blog. As we near the end of 2010, job cuts continue to make headlines, showing that clearly we're not really out of this recession yet, at least in the life sciences industry. This past week, Novartis started handing out pink slips instead of year-end bonuses. Just a week after Roche cut 4,000 jobs, Novartis sliced about 1,700 positions from its U.S. sales team, effective January 1st. The cutbacks will hit the company's general medicine sales force, which will be losing products from its portfolio as drugs go off patent. Also, the company may not be finished. It's in the midst of assessing operations in manufacturing, marketing, and sales for efficiency. As for the job market in general, with 4,900 job cuts announced in November, the pharma industry totaled 50,000 layoffs for the year. That's about 11,000 less than the same time last year, but up significantly from October. The pharma industry remains the second highest area of job cuts behind government. That sector has cut almost 3 times as many positions.
Like your sleeves, they're real big.
So like two nervous kids at their first school dance, Sanofi Aventis and Genzyme have been avoiding each other. Now time is running out for them to get together and dance. Sanofi's $69 per share offer for Genzyme expires December 10th, and both sides are still far apart on an agreement. Ralph Whitworth, a Genzyme board member and shareholder, told CNBC, quote, "I talked to these shareholders, I know them, and it's very clear from them that $69 is just not the price. It's not even a good starting point," he said. That said, Sanofi is unlikely to budge, and one of the biggest sore spots in this thing is Genzyme's multiple sclerosis drug, Campath. Genzyme reps have suggested a new offer with a contingent value right, CVR, that would reward shareholders if Campath does well in the market. The company believes the drug could hit $3.5 billion in sales, which could amount to a $20 CVR per share. But Sanofi doesn't believe a deal containing a CVR, even at $5 or $10 a share, will go through. So for now, these two kids are staying on opposite sides of the dance floor, staring at each other from a distance. Time for some quick hits now, and just like a Mariah Carey Christmas song, the J&J recall story won't go away. In fact, it gets worse every time you hear it. Johnson & Johnson is on a hot streak, but not the one they want. The company has quintupled the size of its previously announced contact lens recall, and it announced a new one involving more than a dozen different Mylanta and Alternagel OTC gastrointestinal meds. This latest drug development stems from a labeling omission, similar to last week's Tylenol cold recall. This brings J&J's recall tally to a dozen plus, covering at least 70 different products. As you know, the company has been hammered by all sorts of issues, like particulates, musty odors, labeling snafus, and general plant mismanagement. Stay tuned, there may be another recall next week. The FDA has rejected a new epilepsy drug from GSK and Valiant Pharma, saying the drug companies have to meet some, quote, non-clinical demands from regulators for further information. What they mean by that is anyone's guess. The companies responded by saying they believe they can address these items and, quote, are working for a timely response to the FDA as soon as possible in 2011. With 3 million people in the U.S. suffering from epilepsy, it's a potentially big market worth up to $800 million in annual sales. Looking to boost its Maryland headquarters, MedImmune has listed 184 job openings for its Gaithersburg and Frederick, Maryland locations. MedImmune is continuing to push oncology products through its pipeline and clinical trial phases. The company currently has approximately 3,500 employees. An FDA advisory committee voted against adding a cancer prevention indication to GSK's Avodart and against adding cancer prevention data to the label on Merck's Proscar. Both are approved to treat enlarged prostate, and the two drugs have shown some efficacy at preventing, or at least temporarily holding off, less aggressive forms of prostate cancer. But study data also suggested a possible increase in aggressive tumors in men who use the drugs for that purpose. The FDA could make a different determination, though as you know, the agency usually follows its advisory committee's recommendations. In an overwhelming vote of confidence, an FDA advisory panel has supported Merck's Gardasil vaccine to prevent anal cancer in both males and females aged 9 to 26. Treating anal intraepithelial neoplasia was also given the green light. Merck expects an FDA decision by the end of the year. GlaxoSmithKline is dumping its program for SRT-501, a special formulation of resveratrol, which the pharma company got in the $720 million buyout of Sertris in 2008. GSK suspended a Phase 2A study for advanced multiple myeloma last May after several patients developed kidney failure. Checking money matters now, and Merck is spending $500 million in upfront fees and potential milestones to acquire Beverly, Mass-based Smart Cells. The biotech company has a preclinical stage program underway for smart insulin, a new insulin technology that automatically adjusts to fluctuating levels of blood glucose. Merck is looking for another potential successor to Januvia and Genumet, which together earned over $2.5 billion last year. The European drug developer Urand NV has agreed to a buyout offer of about $583 million in cash from a privately held rival, Axcan Holdings. The deal will add existing and potential drugs to Axcan's portfolio of products, focusing on gastrointestinal, cardiovascular, and pain conditions. Shareholders are in line for $12 a share, a scant 9% premium. The deal is expected to close in the second quarter of 2011. Endo Pharma announced the completion of its acquisition of Qualitest Pharmaceuticals. Endo and Qualitest agreed to the $1.2 billion cash deal back on September 28th. Johnson & Johnson left open the possibility of renegotiating the $2.3 billion acquisition of Crucell. Why? Well, there have been a few stumbling blocks along the way, the latest a contamination at a plant in South Korea. Should the Dutch vaccine maker's manufacturing woes worsen, J&J has said it may reconsider the price of buying Crucell.
Bent over like this, I'd probably feel 100% better. Moon River. Whew. Thank you, Doc.
Finally today, you use it to point, declare that you're number one, and sometimes to dig for things. Anyway, now your index finger could point to a potential risk for a deadly disease. A new study reveals that men with long index fingers are at lower risk of prostate cancer. Scientists in the UK, who compared the hands of 1,500 prostate cancer patients and 3,000 healthy men, found that those whose index was longer than their ring finger were 33% less likely to develop the potentially fatal disease. While certainly not conclusive, this could be used as a simple test for prostate cancer risk, according to one of the study's lead authors. Finger length is set before birth, influenced by the level of sex hormones babies are exposed to in the womb. A longer index finger points get it, points, to less testosterone, which may protect against cancer later in life. We know this because back in 2004, scientists from Johns Hopkins and the U.S. National Institute of Aging found that men with high blood levels of testosterone were at increased risk of prostate cancer. As for numbers, in the new study, more than half of the men had an index shorter than the ring finger. Those whose two fingers were about equal had a similar prostate cancer risk. Well, that's it for this week's edition of BeakerBeat. I'm Mike Justice. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Sit, Beaker. Sit. Good dog. I'm number one. Not you, Jeremy. I am.